Welcome to Rob's Country for this week, when we again look back over some of the highlights from 2014. One of the people that I caught up with are mid-Canterbury dairy farmers, and boy, do they have computers organised to help them.
2004 we started farming in Westfield, and prior to that we were in Southland together as a couple briefly before marriage, but 1,000 cow operation in Raisbush, Western Southland.
And now you're up here, you're on quite a sizable block.
450 hectares, milking 1,600 cows, and an 80 bale rotary, and we employ 7 staff. Yeah.
Staffing must be a challenge because there's not that number of them around in New Zealand.
A mix of who we have on the team are from New Zealand and abroad. We've got a range of personnel, so we have people from the Ukraine, Ireland. I'll try not to talk in all their accents, sorry, I always do that.
That's all fine.
The Irish lad, he loves it when I get...
They enjoy a bit of stick, do they?
They do. And some expat South Africans as well as Kiwis here on the team at the moment. So
now I know that one of your main focuses as far as running a property is the people and giving them some form of ownership.
Yeah, that's right. Everything we do needs to be systemised in some way so that they have days off, rotating amongst themselves, and we want things to be repeated day after day in terms of being able to follow processes and pick up bits and pieces of information. So it's really important that we've got engagement from people who are just new to our business, 2 to 3 months, through to those that are 3 years or more. And so a big part of that is them knowing why, and they all having access to the information on a daily basis, or can dig out the long-term history on things really quickly.
So obviously computerisation, but accessibility to that's pretty new.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anything to hide in what goes on in the farm. So in terms of login access to the different websites, and whether it's Fonterra for milk production or our soil and water, what's happening there with our telemetry monitoring, it's important that the guys out there making decisions all the time have data all the time to make those calls.
We're very early autumn and we've had 2 lots of rain and the southerly blowing its little lungs out. I mean, that makes a difference to your water levels, moisture levels in the soil.
Definitely, yeah. So we're trying to operate very much in the shoulder part of the season with how little irrigation do we need to keep the system running, and so that we can capture 20, 30 mils rain events and not have any drainage occur. So that we're using every litre of water that we do to the highest level of efficiency. But that also has the win effect with less drainage, there's less potential leakage, so nutrient loss and so forth like that. So staff are quite aware of the win-wins that we have in our daily decision making, as well as they don't have to go and shift that irrigator. So,
do they enjoy getting access to that sort of knowledge?
Yeah, I was really. This is the first year, 12 months, that we've really we've got a new software package that sort of allows us to get that access without them coming to our office and getting in the too hard basket. And I was really surprised at who on the team stepped up and said, "Hey, I've been seeing this, I've been seeing that. Why are we, or when are we going to do something else about it?" And it's like, wow, game changer, really. And so. Similarly, if we're up in the hills away from the cell phone and they're not going to go to the boss, what do I do today? They're going to make the decision first and back it up with the data.
So that's really total team build, Mark, isn't it?
It is, and it's really, with the technology and the mixes of different English and culture, they can read data in black and white and get engagement at an early level in our team, and not have to wait till they're the mysterious 2IC or manager for the share of the love of information. And you are seeing it really early on in high level engagement from the guys. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was meaning by taking ownership of the operation, because not literally but metaphorically they certainly do.
Yeah, no, totally.
Penny, obviously a vital part in your operation as well.
Yeah, we've got a heap of work that happens behind the scenes, and whether it's rostering staff and meeting their needs, but the employment obligations and payroll and contracts and all that side of it, not to mention being right up to date with admin and accountability of what we do with our expenses and that side of it. So yeah, she's got a big part to play, and also a link between myself and the managers and her in a loop, so that we have cross-level high engagement. Yeah.
As far as day-to-day decisions, it's obviously very important to make sure those happen and don't drift.
Yep. So we're using technology with our feed monitoring and pasture growth and things like that. But that's happening from the ground up, from the team getting that data together. Then it's a question of coming back to the use of technology again. You've got quick recall on what the cows are doing on a daily basis. We charts on the cow shed wall as to whether they've been getting allocated supplements or not, and what's happening with the pasture cover moving up and down. So when that's owned by 2 or 3 leaders in the team on a daily or weekly basis, there's the why is this? We did this and we could get it done a little bit better, or oh gee, you got that result. How did that happen when I was on my days off? And so it just brings it in that level of transparency, rather than it just sitting in my head and not forgetting to tell or share the story.
So it's working smarter?
Yeah, I think so. Working smarter, but the team ethos is sort of alive and feeding off each other, which leads to better decisions, I think, because you're justifying why regularly with inquisitive young minds, and not just do it my way because she'll be right.
It sounds very much as though the team you've got are never going to move on because they want to be part of this operation. It's really interesting.
We're trying to, we certainly would love that to be the greatest outcome, Rob. I think the reality is, though, that it's a fast up and mobile sort of industry, and I'm a product of shifting from Northland to Southland and back to Canterbury as a young farmer, getting knowledge off people and growing my skills. And I see a few in our team that'll be in that space too. They won't be here forever, no.
So it's a career still, very much a career?
Oh, totally. That's the only place it is, yeah, definitely amongst the minds of our guys. So we're all here to be farmers, not workers, and so what we do hopefully builds a bit of a platform getting them there, yeah.
Let's talk a wee bit about irrigation and pasture and fertiliser, because obviously you're very much aware of leaching and things. Okay,
yeah, we knit together all our needs and wants in a whole farm approach. So we're starting off shortly for next season's fertiliser applications with a sit down with our FERT rep in terms of looking at our nutrient budget. And we've got annual data of our soil tests, so we're not just looking at Olsen P and lime levels, but we're looking at cause and effect of certain rates of FERT and leaching possibilities, so split applications of things. And the whole wise use of the overseer model to garbage in, garbage out. The more good quality data you can put in there from what's actually happening on farm can really be turned and shape some of your decisions that you make on a real-time basis. Yeah, so there's a fair bit of planning work there, looking back over your shoulder at what we've done and what do we know about the past, and then how's that going to be applied to what our strategies are in the next 12 months or more.
After the break, we go to the races. Welcome back to Rob's Country. It's amazing how many homes you go into and there's a photograph on the wall of the highlights of a horse winning, whether it's galloping or whether it's harness racing. I met up with the man who's responsible for those photos, and it's been around a long time.
Just over 50 years now, yeah. I think in 1957, I think I started New Zealand Cup here at Addington.
So how did you start? How did you get involved?
I got initially through, I was doing a bit of photo finish work at Addington, and one of the magazines approached me to see if I could take some photographs of the horses, and I thought, all right, I'll do that too, because it was a hobby, a real serious hobby with me at that time, and I really enjoyed it. So, and then I started doing the strip finishes for a couple of magazines, and then I started marketing photos to the owners, and just grew from there.
And it has grown. I mean, you're now flat out.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Just myself and my son. Yeah, AJ, he works with me all the time. We just share all the workload and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So there's a lot of meetings. If you watch the TAV channel, there's racing everywhere. You can't be everywhere at once.
No, we just concentrate in the South Island, sort of from Oamaru north. Every track, both codes, gallops and harness. Go to Nelson, the coast and things like that. A lot of travelling. I do nearly 30,000 k's a year in the car. And AJ does, I don't know how many, but yeah. It's just all those meetings we just cover. And we enjoy it.
I mean, it's not just the main ones. You do Motokarara and you do all those small ones as well.
Every single meeting, whether it harness or gallops, every single meeting in the year. It's about 140 meetings we cover, just the two of us. Yeah.
50 years, the gear would have changed a lot.
Oh, out of sight. Out of sight. Yeah. Now it's relatively easy compared to what it used to be with one shot. Now you can motor drive and you get about 11 frames a second with the cameras we've got now. And they're great, detail, great detail. Yeah. We just love them. Yeah.
A lot of your work, you've got action shots, you've got head shots, you've got the finish, you've got the owners all in there together. There's a lot to it.
Yes, you've got to pick your angles. Yeah, we get people coming around behind the cart or something, congratulating the owner. You've got the driver and the owner together. You need to get them from the right angle and make sure you get on the right side of the cart so that you're not getting the back side of them, of course. Yeah, and try to get head shots of the horses as well. Nice head shots, because we love the horses. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
There's a saying that you should never work with children or animals, and you're working with animals the whole time.
Yes, but they don't talk back at you if you keep far enough away with those back legs.
And Colin, obviously computers have made your end of the day work a lot easier.
Oh yes, for sure. One or two of the clubs now do like a wine bottle and give it to the owner, so we go straight back to the computer after the race, download, print the race finish and make the label up, pop it on the wine bottle. The owner gets it within probably 10 minutes of the race finish.
You do that at the track?
At the track, yeah, wherever we are, yes, straight away, yeah. And some of the tracks we put our pictures back up on the website on the same day, at the same time, sort of between races, but that makes a bit of pressure. Yeah.
With all due respect, yeah. So, I mean, computers have obviously become a huge part.
Oh, yes, for sure, yeah. I used to work in the darkroom myself doing my colour prints. I used to do that myself, but now it's done on the laptop and on the computer, and go to the printer in the office, and then AJ does the finishing all for the stuff.
They're all, well, not all of them, you can buy them unframed, but the ones we see normally framed with glass and borders and yes. Very nice handwriting on them.
Well, it's not handwritten really. Yeah, but no, if we got a program, we make a program for each type of mount we do, and then you just drop your photographs in layers and crop them to the size you want and get the colour tuned up and that sort of stuff. It's interesting, really interesting. Yeah, love it. Yeah.
And obviously, you must be very busy because there's a hell of a lot of horse racing.
Yeah, there is, and because of that, we take days off during the week if we can, because the Saturdays and Sundays are pretty much taken up all the time. So, yeah, I'm taking tomorrow off, for instance, and AJ's got today off, and we just share the load. Yeah.
There's that beautiful shot of Courage Under Fire, the stallion.
Yeah.
Have you got many shots that you just say, well, I couldn't have done it any better than that? That's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of action shots. We love the action shots of the horses coming down the straight, getting right in close with the gallopers. We get right into the jockey's face and you see the expression, and that's good. When we freeze it, because it's different to video. We freeze the shot and you got it very sharp, and just catch that moment is the challenge. Yeah.
And 50 years on, I mean, there's no thought in your mind that you're going to give it all away and just do vegetable gardening.
No, we travel every year, overseas if we can. So I say I work to travel. Yeah, we go somewhere around the world every year, around about June. Yeah. Look forward to it.
And you'd have no idea how many framed photographs that are out there with your name on the back of it.
Not at all. No, not at all. Yeah. I don't know how many meetings I've been to, but when you've got 50 meetings, 50 years of it, I would have covered 80 to 100 meetings or 90 meetings in each year, I suppose. So
it's getting up there.
It sure is, yeah. You used to have 8 races a day. Now you have 10 or 12 or 13, or it gets a long day. Yeah.
And the other thing is, you must have met in your 50 years a huge range of characters.
Oh yes. And what I like at the races when I arrive is an owner walk by and say, I hope to see you later today. Meaning they want to win. You're probably in the same box.
It's that camaraderie, isn't it? It's a great industry.
Yes, that's right. It is. That's what we get a lot of buzz out of the owners and what they share with their winning moment. We just enjoy that too. You have a lot of laughs with them, and that's what life should be about.
Interesting, though, you work around your subject. You don't try to get the subject to work around you. I mean, you scuttle around in there and to get that angle.
Oh yeah, the horses have a mind of their own, so you've got to get the angle that they decide upon. Some of them will play up a bit, but not too many, but some do, and you've got to watch out for them. Yeah.
After the break, it's sawmilling. Welcome back. Well, they say back into the future, or the fact that the old is still as good as the new. I caught up at a special steam day with John Hawkins, who runs a very ancient sawmill. So the sawmill is a huge attraction. What's this history?
Well, it's a sawmill. We're actually sawmillers in Belfast. My son's with us now. We're 4th generation. And this is some equipment we had in the back paddock. And the guys wanted a permanent display here. We still own the gear, but it's on permanent loan. They've built the building with a bit of help from us and built up the sawmill. It really appeals to the people because they can see what's happening. You start with a round log and you end up with timber. They can see the whole process. And we have a brief half-hour, 3/4 hour stint each, twice a day, and that's enough, really.
Well, it looks as though it's pretty hard work.
It is, yes. We've found a cure for the hard work, but we do that in a minute.
So, all driven by one traction engine, but a massive belt.
Yes, it is. Which is the way they did this. This is our big engine, which we've had since 42, and that's what it did in its early years. It drove the mill for Mile Man for 10 years like this, and it was the start of our business, so it's very important to us. So yeah, it just one engine. Working pretty hard doing this. It's hard work, yep.
And this really was how it happened. People would be working in here probably 10 hours a day. 8
to 10 hours, yeah. A good sawyer would walk 5 to 8 mile a day. And
five paces forward, 5 back.
That's right, but 5 to 8 mile in the day. And they set the pace, and that's how you made or lost your money. And I guess we'd put a mill like this, you put about 25 tonne of logs through a day, and the sawyer could handle each of those logs in different pieces. He probably handles 25 tonne 4 or 5 times in the day, so he probably handles 60 or 80 tonne of timber in a day. I mean, over the time.
Your role today is sawyer, so you're setting the
pace.
The pace.
Yeah, and also what size you cut, and it's your job to get the ultimate recovery, as much timber out of the log, which we call conversion, which is conversion from round to square. We've got waste, which is the slabs, which in those days they would have dried and then burnt as fuel for the engine.
So nothing was wasted.
Oh, very carbon friendly.
And even the sawdust gets taken away by a little chain conveyor.
That's right, and then to the dray, which it did, and then we've got the Clydesdale horse Ferg taking the sawdust away. Yep. Because you get a lot of sawdust in the day. Yep.
How old would this be, do you reckon?
Well, it's a bit like Grandfather's axe. There's a lot of various parts, but all of it would be at least 50 to 60 years old. Some would be older. The engine's 105 years old. So yeah, it's basic machinery, but it works well. The saws are the important thing, keeping them right.
And how do you keep it maintained?
Well, the saws are the main thing. The rest of it, just oil and and keep the belts good, because the belts do deteriorate. And we've got a saw doctor, full-time saw doctor at our place, and he keeps the saws here for us, and that's the important thing.
Now, the main saw I noticed has got something fluid pouring over it. What's that?
Water to cool it. Most saws have to keep them cool, just obviously for the heat and keep it. As soon as the saw, if it gets warm, it starts to move, it wobbles, the heat expands, so you've got to keep the saw cool to keep it straight.
John, how much have they changed to nowadays, the modern one that you would be using now?
Well, the principle's still the same, but the effects, see, we'd be cutting here, each man in the middle like this would be just like 4 men, you'd cut about 4,000 or 5,000, which is take 10 tonne of timber a day, 12 tonne of timber a day. We've got 3 men in our sawmill now, and they're cutting 150 tonne of timber a day. Yeah. And that's the difference.
That is the difference.
And I don't think we make any more money. We just all run faster and faster to stay in the same place. But we've got a lot more bureaucrats and other people hanging on us these days, and they're getting quite heavy.
So, and there is a lot of manpower to drive this one.
Oh yes, there is. There's 4 of us, really, 4 or 5 of us working, yeah. But you'd know I'd done a day's work. You didn't need to go to the gym when you got home.
I reckon. And obviously, as we said, it's a real crowd pleaser.
Yes, it does. Well, and it's noise and things. People can see, as I say, what's happening. The engine's working hard. And the way they built this building, where you can stand up even on a wet day like today, and we can operate and they can see what's happening, it certainly draws the people.
Yeah, well, and it's Busman's holiday for you, really.
Oh, it's fantastic, yeah. But you do what you do, don't you?
After the break, we go to the Waikato. During the year I had the opportunity, courtesy of Balance I might add, to travel the country and meet some of the top people in dairying. I went to the Waikato first.
I started as an 18-year-old on 39% share milking 40 years ago, on the 1st of June coming up. Yeah.
Where are we now and how big is it?
Current property is 210 hectares, 203 effective, probably calving about 850 cows. Last year we did about 1,900 kilograms of milk solids. Farm across the road is 90 hectares, 86 effective, milking 324 cows. And that's done just on 1,600 this year.
Fertiliser?
Fertiliser's been an interesting year this year. We bought this property and had to put truckloads on, and like most developers and what have you, probably didn't read the soil tests, probably quite in the light of balancing it, and we finished up having some fairly fertile soils. Started cutting back about 6 years ago on the amount of fertiliser going onto the farm, mainly because as we increased the amount of feed going into the cows, the organic material going out to the paddocks was actually increasing, and that was actually contributing also to the fertility. Last spring we had metaboticals, and so we had to reason it out. So we started with herbage testing, and we also tested every paddock on the farm, and that's something we'll do from now on every year. There is a cost involved in it, but we've got to know what's coming off those paddocks through the grass into the cows' mouths, and the only way to do that is to test.
You're wearing a Balance hat. They've got 3 strings to their bow. How do they fit into your operation?
Been a Balanced shareholder for years. I'm a cooperative person. That's where my values are. Balance have always looked after us in regard to fertiliser and what have you. So that was our introduction, and then of course when Seals was purchased and what have you, we had already started with Seals prior to the purchase, and on our second farm that's our feeding regime there. Yeah. And
do you use Ag Hub?
Not yet. If we are, we're unaware of it. We use a lot of information. We steal, borrow and beg. So yeah, exactly on a formal basis, I don't know if we're quite with Ag Hub yet. Yeah.
I'm sure somebody will be coming around to see you.
No doubt.
What information are you after and how often to keep everything in tune?
We're very proactive. We're always discussing between my manager and myself our needs, 3, 6, 12 months ahead of time. So between the two of us, we have a lot of information already, but we also collect a lot of information. So what do we actually need? Specifically, I can never tell you on any given day, because probably it was a discussion I had yesterday. I've already moved on to the next phase. But from our business, what we need to have is accurate soil testing. We actually need to know what's happening with our effluent, the impact on that to the pasture, herbage testing and what have you. And then in regard to the second farm with feeding, we need to have good quality feed. That farm is actually doing only a little bit less than this farm, with basically an in-shed feeding system, and we were totally reliant on that. So feed quality for that farm is terribly important.
So your manager's constantly manipulating and caressing?
On the home farm, yeah, day by day. I would probably talk to my manager here just about every day. If it's not me asking him something or telling him something, it's definitely him relaying to me or asking me or sounding me off, and then him back to the team. So every day the feed, the milk weights are analysed, the feed is actually preset relative to what our production's going. So we don't have any hidden surprises, like we can't come at the end of the week and sort of think there's been a drop off in production. It just didn't happen because we've actually seen the increment changes as they're going.
Is there any information that you can think of that you can't get your hands on at the moment?
Not really, no. I can't talk for all farmers, but me, myself, no. I've got a telephone and I'm not scared to use it, and I sort of know who to tap if I need information. So, yeah, I don't myself have a problem.
Very briefly, where to from here?
Definitely not retirement. We are looking at setting up another farm. We're quite serious about setting up a farm with one of our managers, because he's a real important part of our business. He may not have the opportunity of getting his own farm ownership, so we want to be part of his future. The agriculture has been very kind to me and also my family. My parents were Dutch immigrants, came out here, bought their first farm. Dad died very early in age, so I was the oldest at 21 with three brothers. We all finished up owning our own dairy farm. Great opportunity, and I think we need to be part of that opportunity for the next people coming in behind us.
So that's your future, but what about Balance's future? Where would you like them to go to help you with yours?
Okay. It's an interesting concept, and I think it's something that other industries are challenged with it at the moment. We've made huge increases, but collectively, if you look at the average for the country and whatever, there's still a big gain to be made. The demand for world food and what have you means that we do have to, fill those gaps and what have you. So, things that I can see Balance playing a big part in is probably like some of the things we've done. Soil testing every paddock, know what needs to go onto the paddock, so you're monitoring your resources and your costs closer, getting the results of those grasses and whatever, things like herbage tests and whatever are an important part. Effluent, of course, is going to be a huge challenge. The farms, if you go back 30 years ago, the soil was like blotting paper, and it needed humus and it needed nutrients and whatever. That tank is now topped up. So going forward, how the fertiliser, the effluent plays a part in maintaining that balance and what have you. So our responsibility to the environment. And I think the other part that's really, really important is that we've bred very, very good cows. The only thing we have to do is get the potential, and I think there's a lot of potential still left on a lot of farms, and food quality plays a very big part in that. Some of the development with seals, with calf meal and what have you, and I know some of the trials that have gone on, that if you're looking at competitive pricing and all the rest of it, it's quite easy to take a cheaper option. But from the results that are coming back that have been done in trials and what have you, Seal's calf feed is far superior. Now that is really, really important because growth rates and all the rest of it and what have you. So basically results for your money spent. But likewise in the cow sheds and all the rest of it, there's a lot of farmers that actually could put an in-shed feeding system in and what have you. So they could actually do away with things like drenching, which makes one-man milking easier, so labour requirements and what have you. But getting that feed into the cows and all the rest of it and what have you, things like lower empty rates, higher productivity and what have you. Probably even looking after those younger heifers, we've got a huge wastage in that heifer bracket and what have you. But if we can get them fed properly and all the rest of it so they do get in calf, do come into that second season, and when they're losing their teeth and all the rest of it, we're protecting them.
How close do you want their consultants to your shoulder?
Personally, it doesn't worry me because I always know when to tell people to leave. I think it's consultancy is a bit tricky. You need to get the farmers to grow with the consultant. Don't just go and give advice, because when the consultant leaves, the advice stops. Farmers have to learn to take ownership, and if they can actually grow with it. I know years ago as a dairy company director, we had an incentive where we put a consultant in, and we put it in the bottom 25% quartile. Now all these people doubled or 40% increased their production and what have you. Unfortunately, when we turned that tap off, their production went back to where it was. So that's a trick. We need to step the game up, but then we need to maintain the game.
After the break, we talk trees. Welcome back to Rob's Country. We keep talking about the beautiful, clean, green image of New Zealand. So what better thing to do than to catch up with a nursery and find out what's becoming fashionable?
We had an extremely wet autumn, and up until now we've had a very mild winter. Not too many frosts and not too wet.
So does that make for good tree planting or not?
Yes, it does. Yes. The only thing you'd need to worry about is if the ground was frozen. But it's a very good time now to be planting.
We are a country of extremes when it comes to weather. Does that make it hard for people to choose trees?
A little bit. In mid-Canterbury, as you probably know, we get the hurricane force nor'westers thrown at us. We get extremes of temperature, very cold and very hot. So, it makes it a wee bit tricky.
I guess the thing to do is to talk to your nursery person and say, this is my climate, I do get snow or I don't get snow. And
yes, because in Canterbury, of course, we have, a lot of different corridors of climate, I guess. We have under the foothills, we have the plains, and then along the coast as well. So they're quite different conditions in all those areas.
Can you control wind with trees?
Some people would like to be able to do that. Yes, you can by planting the right height trees and perhaps several layers of shelter belt, like a shorter, maybe a native layer and then a deciduous layer in the middle, or an evergreen shrub layer followed by a tree layer. So I think the layering effect is really beneficial for wind.
So the short downwind or upwind?
What's a short downwind?
No, what I'm saying is, do you plant the short stuff where the wind comes from, at the front?
Yeah, so
it sends the wind up.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
A lot of trees lost last September. People replanting?
Yes, they are, but it was a little bit beneficial for dairy farmers because a lot of the farm trees that came out were perhaps ones that were destined to come out for irrigators to go in. It made things easier, but a lot of people lost like big plantations of forest trees as well, which was, really bad news.
Are people replanting with pine? Because it's always been a staple.
We don't hear a lot of people replanting in pines, actually. No. Maybe different types of conifers, but not so many pines now.
So that's more now like a woodlot rather than a shelter belt.
Yes.
I want to talk to you a wee bit about specimen trees, because in my mind, specimen trees should be planted and can be planted, and why not?
As a shelter, or just around?
Just to make a farm look really nice. Why not put a flowering cherry in a corner?
Absolutely. I think that all of our rural areas could do with improving aesthetically, and what better way to do it than with trees? Beautiful oaks, plane trees, maybe flowering cherries, liquid ambers. They would all enhance the whole area, attract bees for, pollination's a big problem. I think in the corners where the irrigators don't reach, why not plant some beautiful flowering cherries?
What about natives? Are they being used in corners of paddocks as well?
Yes, they are. Yes, quite a bit, because they can stand maybe a bit more damp than other species. Yeah.
And of course
they're evergreen, so that helps.
Are people thinking, Nikki, about birds and bees?
Yes, quite a lot, because there's sort of an international worry really about bees. They seem to be dying off, and hives are getting infected with diseases and that kind of thing. So a lot of people are coming in here wanting to know what to plant to attract bees.
And you're looking at things such as tree lucerne, which is also a fodder feed.
Yes, that's right. A lot of the evergreen bushy shrubs are good at attracting bees, like the viburnums and things like that, which are good on farms.
It's really just a shift in thinking, isn't it, that farmers need to do, just to say, well, let's put 3 flowering cherries in that corner.
Yeah, I think a more holistic view of the farm is in thinking of amenity planting as well as shelter is coming through quite a lot, yes.
And as far as shelter is concerned, centre pivots have got a really bad reputation, but you can grow stuff underneath them.
Yes, a lot of natives have been planted under centre pivots, and we can advise which ones, that will tolerate the wetter soil. And I think that farmers are more environmentally aware now, particularly because they do get a bit of flack from other people, about water quality and all that sort of thing. So I think to be seen to be planting up all around their milking sheds and things like that, that's happening a lot. Yeah, it's really good.
And shelter is important for stock as well.
Definitely. No one likes to see stock without shelter on one of our really hot, northwest summer days, when it could be in the mid-30s and things like that. So, or for the reverse for cold winds. I think that farmers are much more aware that, people driving by might see, those poor cows or those poor sheep haven't got any shelter from whatever, a southerly or a nor'wester. Whose phone's that? That's you.
So, shade? Are people coming in and asking for trees that give shade?
Yes, they are. And a lot of trees... it's really important to know the final shape of a tree. If you want a canopy that's going to provide shade, there's no point in buying an upright tree or a fastigiate tree, as it's called. The ultimate shape and size of a tree is really important to know when you're actually looking at trees. So if you've got good nursery staff...
I was just going to say, Nikki, the best thing to do is to walk in and say to a nursery person, this is what I want.
Yes, yep. You say... this tree, this position is, northerly facing, or just give all the specific, the soil, whether it's near a pond or a stream, or whether it's very dry or, the hungry looking soil, and we'll try and match the tree up with those conditions to the best of our ability.
And indeed, there is nothing wrong with planting beautiful trees. I'm Rob Coate-Williams. You've either been watching or you've just missed one of my highlights packages, but I will be back with more at the same time next week. Until then, bye now.